Hello, I'm Ian Bain. The album that's been most influential on me is this one right here, Steely Dan, Asia. It's a fantastic record from a fantastic band. Just like really, really great arrangements, super cool harmonic ideas. It's a pop record that managed to be somehow incredibly complex and super jazzy and super beautiful all at the same time. It's like a perfect storm of everything I kind of like a lot. This album's been really influential on my music making, mostly from like a sort of an arrangement and harmony point of view. I think there's like an incredible amount of depth in this record to sort of explore and dig into, and just trying to sort of figure out how these sounds are working and how things are put together on this record was like really helpful for me as far as developing my songwriting and just kind of being able to take something that could be very simple and being able to sort of deepen that and make it a little bit more, interesting or a little bit more challenging. I listen to this album all the time. I listen to it in the car all the time. I listen to it at home on my record player all the time. It's a great album to put on like when you're doing stuff around the house. It's also a great album to put on and just focus on and listen to, because there's endless stuff you can pick out of this record. This album is kind of an interesting one. Like it's something I heard a long time ago. The first time my dad used to play this record all the time, so there's an element of nostalgia there. I remember really not liking it when I first heard it as a kid, but it was kind of a weird one for me because it was when I kind of rediscovered this record years later. It was like I had this idea that I just didn't like this band, and then somebody put it on, or I heard something somewhere, and I was like, this is everything I like. So yeah, maybe it makes me feel kind of like there's things change, There makes me feel like anything could be cool. Yeah, I think there's plenty of reasons why someone might not like this record the way I like it. It certainly sits in a sort of a weird place in as a rock record or a pop record. It's not really any of the two. It's like all the jazzy elements and all the weird compositional things are just like can be challenging and totally not up people's alley. It's not a super hard rocking record if you're looking for a rock record. It's not a super poppy, catchy record if you're looking for that. It's kind of this mashup of all those things. But I think the thing that makes it so great is that there's such an incredible balance of all those elements. And for me, that makes just like a perfect record. One of my favorite albums for sure is Tom Waits' Nighthawks at the Diner. Huge record for me, one I've stuck with me for a long time. Been listening to it for a lot of years and love it as much as I did the first time I listened to it, maybe even more. I was in Germany many years ago now, doing like a sort of semester of study there, and I went to what I thought was an opera. I thought it was Wozzeck by, it's been a while now, Alban Berg did like an atonal opera called Wozzeck. What it turned out to be was the same story, which is called Wojciech, but it was all set to the music of Blood Money, that Tom Waits record, which was a super, super cool performance. And I loved it. Everyone that I brought and was like, hey, let's go to an opera in Germany, they were really mad at me because it wasn't that at all. But I thought it was amazing, and then I went home and just downloaded like a whole Tom Waits sort of discography, and this was the first one I listened to out of that, and I was like, whoa, this is fucked. It's funny, for as much as I love this record, I haven't really like dug into like the how it was made or like the history of it as much as I have with some other records. Maybe that's kind of like me trying to like preserve some of like the mystique and like the feel of this record, but All I know is that the one thing that's like really struck me about it is the whole thing that it's like, I believe it's a studio recording, but they brought in an audience, and that's really, really cool. Sounds great. It has this like very live element. You hear people chattering in the background and stuff, and there's like some banter between songs. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh. Oh. Yeah, this album comes, I think, with a certain feeling. Like when you put on this record, I think everyone kind of gets the same sort of greasy, grimy, late night sort of feeling about it. I really like that feeling. Like I really like putting this on at night. I really like putting this on in the dark, and sort of just kind of getting enveloped in that sort of, that dingy, in the city, all alone sort of feeling. It's really great. Some people might not be into this album. I mean, number one, a lot of people can't deal with Tom Waits' voice. It's weird, it's grating, he sounds like he's wasted this entire record. Probably was wasted this entire record. There's a really kind of dark, like wry sense of humor throughout this whole record. That might not, fly with some people, but for me, it connected on like every level. Like it was kind of my sense of humor. It was my whole vibe at the time. Like the sort of ambiance that this record creates and creates very, very well was something that like was very appealing to me at the time. I think when I first heard this record, I was very, very much into like reading like all like the beat writers and stuff, like Jack Kerouac and Burroughs and all that stuff. So that it just went hand in hand. I mean, he was basically doing that whole vibe at that time. So that worked really well with me, and just musically it was really good. Like I was in school for music, and like this is a very jazzy record. There's some great playing on it. It sort of has that sort of cabaret element. It's it was recorded in 75, but it has this really almost like backroom saloon speakeasy thing going on. It's very interesting. And it does it well somehow. Like I can't stand that shit. Like I hate seeing like bands doing that kind of thing now, where they're like, "Hey, we're from the 20s and check us out." Like, but there's something about this that's it's not doing that, but it's accomplishing that feeling so much better than so many other people try to do it. So yeah, it's a great record.